All right, folks, strap on those skates, grab your helmets, and prepare for a wild ride, because we're diving headfirst into the fast-paced, hard-hitting world of roller derby. It's a sport unlike any other, a blend of athleticism, grit, and rock and roll energy that's been captivating audiences for nearly a century. So, how did this electrifying spectacle on wheels get its start? Well, roll with me as we skate back through time. Our story begins in the roaring 1930s. The United States was in the grip of the Great Depression, and people were desperate for some form of affordable entertainment, something that could take their minds off the tough times. Enter Leo Seltzer, a Chicago promoter with a big idea. Seltzer was a visionary. He noticed the growing popularity of roller skating and thought, what if I made this into a sport? And so, in 1935, he introduced the Transcontinental Roller Derby, a marathon skating race that simulated a cross-country journey. Teams of two, one man, one woman, would skate in an oval track, racing to cover thousands of miles over several weeks. But hold on, these weren't just leisurely laps. It was a test of endurance, speed, and, most importantly, showmanship. Spectators loved it, and crowds flocked to arenas across America. The sport was born, but it was about to evolve into something much bigger. As the events continued, Seltzer noticed something fascinating. People loved the crashes, the spills, the contact. They weren't just there for the race, they wanted action. So, in the late 1930s, Seltzer tweaked the format. Instead of focusing on marathon distances, he turned it into a contact sport, where skaters were encouraged to knock each other out of the way. And with that, roller derby became a full-on collision sport. Now, picture this. Two teams of 5 skaters zooming around an oval track with one player from each team, the jammer, fighting to score points by passing opposing skaters, while the other players, known as blockers, tried to stop them by any means necessary. The hits were hard, the speed was fast, and the crowds went wild. It wasn't long before roller derby started getting some serious traction. By the 1940s, roller derby was a sensation. Sports arenas filled up to watch skaters battle it out in cities across the country. Then, in 1948, it hit the big time. Roller derby made its debut on television. People from coast to coast tuned in to watch the drama unfold. And make no mistake, there was drama. Skaters became larger-than-life personalities, heroes and villains on wheels. The sport blended athleticism with a touch of theatricality that made it irresistible to viewers. And if we're talking stars, we've got to mention one of the biggest, Joan Weston, aka the Blonde Bomber. In the 1960s and 70s, she was the face of roller derby, dominating the track with both skill and charisma. Fans adored her, and she helped push the sport to new heights during the golden age of roller derby. In this era, the 1960s and 1970s, roller derby was everywhere, on TV, in packed stadiums, and in the hearts of millions of fans. But just like any wild ride, roller derby had its ups and downs. By the late 70s, its popularity started to wane. The scripted nature of some bouts, the rise of other sports, and financial troubles led to a decline. By the 1980s, roller derby was no longer the cultural force it once was. It seemed like the wheels had come off, and roller derby was heading for a crash. But wait, this story's far from over, because just like a great jam in derby, there's always room for a comeback. Fast forward to the early 2000s. Roller derby was revived, but this time it was different. It was DIY and punk rock. All across the US, underground leagues began popping up, with an emphasis on community, empowerment, and the pure love of the game. And this time, it wasn't just about entertainment. It was about feminism, inclusivity, and creating a space for strong women to own the spotlight.
The modern roller derby movement was led by leagues like Texas Roller Derby and Gotham Girls Roller Derby. And let me tell you, the sport was rougher, faster, and more rebellious than ever before. Gone were the scripted fights of old. This was real, intense, full-contact roller derby. The skaters, many of them women, took on fierce names like Susie Hot Rod and Bonnie Thunders, making a statement that roller derby was back and it was here to stay.
Today, the sport is truly global. There are hundreds of leagues around the world, governed by the Women's Flat Track Derby Association. Roller derby is played on flat tracks and has become an international sport, with teams from across the globe competing in thrilling tournaments. And it's not just for women anymore. There are men's leagues, co-ed leagues, and junior leagues, proving that roller derby is a sport for everyone. Let's not forget, this new generation of roller derby keeps the spirit of the original alive. The action is real, the hits are fierce, and the athletes are pushing their limits on every jam. But it's also about camaraderie, empowerment, and the freedom to be as fierce and fabulous as you want on the track. So, there you have it, the story of roller derby. From its marathon racing beginnings in the 1930s, through its golden years in the 40s and 50s,